Hello, today I'm going to discuss some key terms in the areas of assessment and how it relates to reading and writing. To begin, I will discuss the term reading assessment. A reading or literacy assessment is a test designed to identify student reading fluency and comprehension. Once their teacher has the results of the assessment, they can plan for future instruction and help students reach their reading goals. One assessment tool a teacher can use to assist in student language is called Fontes and Pinnell. A reading specialist can help aid the teacher in testing students and provide tips for first best instruction as well as small group instruction. When testing, the teachers must explain the importance of student involvement. Students must concentrate when taking the F&P exam because they must answer comprehensive questions and score 95% or higher to move on to the next level. The next definition I will discuss is language assessment. This test shows teachers how well a student can use spoken language to communicate ideas. This applies to reading and writing instruction because in order to read and write, students must first understand language fundamentals. In the early years, language skills could be assessed by having students engage in a picture book, then explain what is going on in order for the teacher to observe the student's speech and proper word usage. For later grades, the teacher can have students read a story in small groups, identify main points, rehearse it to their peers, and then tell the story to the class to assess voice control, pronunciation, emotions, etc. Overall, language assessment helps support learning in the classroom because it allows a teacher to see where students are in their development. This will help the teacher coordinate proper activities and curriculum to improve student language. Reading specialists can assist by helping teachers to identify a student's language development, coordinate lessons, and refer the child for future assistance if needed. Students can aid in their own learning by taking advice from their teachers and practicing verbal communication. Next, we will discuss diagnostic testing. Diagnostic testing is a form of pre-assessment that allows a teacher to determine students' individual strengths, weaknesses, knowledge, and skills prior to instruction. Essentially, once the teacher reviews the results from the diagnostic test, they can demonstrate which skills need to be included in the long-range plans. The teacher can help students improve their writing abilities through first instruction and small group instruction. An example of a diagnostic assessment would be a pretest. The teacher would give the student the pretest before they start the next unit in order to help them understand what they need to focus on during first instruction. Diagnostic tests can help to identify if a student needs further instruction after first instruction or if they need remediation or intervention. As for student involvement, students must commit to completing their diagnostic test as accurately as possible. This is the only way the teacher will get clear data. Keeping this in mind, assigning a diagnostic test at the very beginning or very end of the day would not be in the student's best interests. Continuing on, we will discuss remediation. Remediation means to reteach information that students did not understand the first time the lesson was taught. Essentially, remediation relates to reading and writing instruction because through data collection and small group instruction, the teacher can pinpoint the misconception the student has and help them understand the material in a different way. Also, by collecting data, they can see who needs reteaching in the areas of reading and writing and who doesn't. The process of remediation involves in-depth analysis of a child's difficulties to determine what initially went wrong and then develop a plan to remedy it. One of the ways teachers can remedy these issues is to first analyze where the problem lies and then create activities that will help the student master the skills. Overall, remediation supports learning in the classroom by giving each child an opportunity to get the support they need. As for a reading or literacy specialist, they can help by suggesting resources, providing assistance with remediation, and even co-teaching to provide students the best instruction possible. And finally, when it comes to student involvement, teachers must make it clear what they have planned for students so the child feels a sense of control over their learning. The student must also go into remediation with a positive attitude and be ready to learn. This will produce the best results. Moving on, we will go over intervention. Essentially, this is a formal process for helping students who are struggling, where research-based instructional approaches are implemented around very specific skill deficits and where progress is regularly tracked. Intervention is broken into 3 tiers. The first tier, instruction, consists of about 80% of your class. Tier 2, which is 5 to 15% of your class, and Tier 3. In Tier 1, you focus on whole group instruction with some remediation. Tier 2 and Tier 3, you are going to be focusing more on one-on-one instruction with minimal remediation and more intervention. Teachers can identify which reading and writing strategies work best after they screen, identify needs, and set target goals for each student. A commonly used intervention assessment is the multi-tiered support system, also known as MTSS. This assessment screens the students and pinpoints where they are struggling. Teachers can use MTSS to identify their students' reading and writing levels and to provide activities to help with struggling students reach their goals. As for literacy specialists, they can help teachers and students with the intervention process by assessing students, providing teaching strategies, co-teaching, and recommending for students if further services are needed. As for student involvement, students should never be made to feel inferior or unintelligent when receiving intervention. The teacher must create a positive learning environment so students who are receiving intervention will feel motivated to learn. Lastly, we will discuss progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is a formal protocol necessary to collect valid and reliable data to chart students' performance against expected outcomes. An example of this would be the practice of either a formal or informal assessment. For a formal assessment, teachers can implement a probe, also known as a standardized test, to check student progress amongst each other. Or for an informal assessment, teachers can rely on worksheets, rubrics, and records to evaluate student progress individually. Progress monitoring is a major part of overall assessment for allows the teacher to know where student comprehension is in order to move on with instruction or reevaluate lesson plans for reteaching. Overall, it helps determine a teacher's future path with curriculum. As for a reading or literacy specialist, their involvement for this would be to contribute to the teacher's goal by helping to grade and evaluate struggling students, therefore helping them to keep pace with the rest of the class. Lastly, student involvement in this aspect of the learning process would be to be informed on rubric requirements, what they will be evaluated on, and their results thereafter.